does. That's all right. That's really good. So, so let me ask you this, guys. What part does the sun play in our ecological system? How does the sun help everything? Without Without the sun, there'd be no light. Without light, there'd be no trees. Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah. Without, we couldn't survive without the sun. Without trees, how do trees help us? How do trees help human beings? Yeah, guys? Yeah, Arlo, go for it. Trees produce oxygen. How do they do that? Photosynthesis. Where does photosynthesis come from? The sun. Yeah, right? What about bugs? What about bugs like how does the dragonfly help in our ecological system? What does the dragonfly do to help? They eat mosquitoes and they help pollinate. What do butterflies do to help? They pollinate. What do bumblebees do to help? They pollinate. Exactly. Yeah, totally. So, hey, do you guys feel how if you pull tight on that string, you can feel that you're connected, even though you guys are not alike or exact. You can feel the strength of the connection. You can pull back a little bit and feel the support. So you guys said, what did you say that dragonflies eat? They eat, what was it again? Mosquitoes? Do you guys like mosquitoes? No, man, mosquitoes are the worst. So let's do this. Let's just get rid of mosquitoes, okay? So if you're a mosquito, why don't you go ahead and drop the line? Sorry. We sprayed for you. You're out of here. Okay, well, now there's no mosquito, so what's the dragonfly going to eat? Well, I guess there's no more dragonflies now. So if you're an insect of any kind, go ahead and drop the line. So we've got no insects now. Now, the insects are responsible for pollinating all the flowers in the trees, right? So with nobody to help move the pollen around, we don't have any trees anymore. So if you're a plant or a flower or a tree, drop the line. Okay, how's the rest of the system feeling? What do you guys have to do to keep this thing tight? Is it possible to keep the web tight? How? You gotta pull a little harder. Is this tight? This isn't tight. Come on, you guys can do better than that. Pull this thing back. Oh my goodness. And eventually, what happens is competition begins, you lose one thing, and the whole system is weakened until what happens? The sun burns out, I guess. Where's the sun? If no sun, all right, it's over. The dream's over. The system's wiped out. Thank you guys for your help. You can head back to your seats. You've done it beautifully. This is Acts chapter 17. St. Paul writes, "It's within God that all things live and grow and have their being." John Muir wrote, "When we try to pick out one thing by itself, we find that it's hitched to everything else in the universe." I spent a lot of my younger years trying to figure out like what a bobby was for. I felt like I couldn't really determine what to do with this thing. I died 1,000 deaths in the land of comparison, where you're looking around and thinking like, well, they all seem to know what they're here for. I mean, like Corey's the music man. He's born to make tunes. Michael Jordan's here, born to shoot hoops. What's a bobby for? I couldn't really figure it out. And then as it did start to sort of settle into myself, I thought, is this even really helpful? And would anybody really miss me if I were gone? And am I making a difference at all? And basically that eventually just turned into, how do I get noticed? How do I get noticed as often as possible to help me feel more secure about whatever the heck it is that I am and what I'm meant to be doing? And St. Paul in Corinthians, he wrote something that I think is a joke. He's like, you know how a body works. There's only this one thing happening, but it's made up of all these bits and parts and pieces that don't look really anything like each other, but every one of them is essential. He says, what if the eye went on an ego trip and it was like, man, eyes rock. Like, if it wasn't for the eye, we'd never see where we were going. Like, this whole thing would fall apart without vision. And so wouldn't it be better if, like, the whole thing was an eye? I mean, if 2 eyes are good, then 12 eyes have got to be great. Or maybe just one giant eyeball. And Paul's like, well, no, that's not how then you would be a terrible monster, essentially, is what it says. And then he writes something interesting. He said, God gives special privilege to the parts of ourselves that we feel the most ashamed of or embarrassed. And the parts that we consider to be weak, God crowns in glory, that the weak are elevated. This is Jesus' message over and over again about the kingdom. The first will be last, the last will be first. Our value system is so out of whack, it's best to just let it go. There's only this one thing happening. Well, let me ask you and you guys can respond to this, but we've been saying here for a few weeks, there's only this one thing happening. And what do you sense that means? You're like, oh, no, there isn't. There's like 1,000 things happening. There's like literally 1,800 things happening just in this room right now. So when we say there's only this one thing happening, what do you feel that means? What do you sense that meaning of this is? Seeking God. Yeah, definitely. Let's do it this way. What is this? Anything else? What's it? Sustenance. All the ingredients that went in to making the loaf of bread. What else do you see when you look at it? Carbs and calories. Got to keep that svelte figure. Trace, respect. Right, yeah? A baker's love for his or her craft. What else do you see when you look at it? An idea. Tastes good. It's the symbolism, the body, Christ. What else do you see when you look at it? The energy from the sun stored by plants. The president needs butter. You know that joke? What's the thought that gets you kicked out of heaven? There's the one thought that gets you kicked out of heaven. It's like, man, this place is really nice. I wish I had a pillow. What else do you see? Yeah, grain, right? We know this comes from wheat. Wheat is harvested. So from a certain perspective, when you look at it, you can see the grain, you can see the soil that grew the grain, the micronutrients, the worm poop. When you look at this, you can see worm poop. Microorganisms, fungal and bacterial components. If you look at it, you can see thousands of years worth of, humus, the decomposition of plants and animals that break down over thousands of years, that cover the forest floor, that go into making healthy soil where the wheat can grow. The actions of all the people involved in processing and making the bread, right? If you look at it for long enough, you start to see the farmers who grew it and the helpers who harvested it and the truck driver who drove it from Colombia for some reason. Because, you ever think about these systems? You ever drive along the St. Johns River and look at those shipping containers and go, what is happening? The folks who drive these boats, the metal that goes into making the trucks and the tractors, and the miners who mined that metal to send it to Detroit, to turn it into engines, to turn it into a tractor, put it into a truck, the grocery store clerk who rang it up for you, and the bag boy. Community, the rain, the earth, the moon. If you look at it, if you look at any one thing for long enough to start to actually see it. I remember one time a teacher told me, he was talking about the long, loving gaze of God, God's inherent and ultimate neutrality, and that the way we look at one thing is the way that we look at anything. And he challenged me to pick up this practice of picking something to look at and looking at it for long enough that we can see beyond its usefulness or unusefulness, beyond our value judgments about whether it's beautiful or isn't, even beyond all the thoughts of what had to go into making it and bringing it here, to a place of neutrality where we can just see what is for what it is. The way that we get there is by paying attention to just the hundreds of snap judgments that begin in our mind as soon as we set our eyes on anything. Have you paid attention to this part of yourself? I remember walking around one day and just tuning into my brain, and I was listening to all the things I was thinking about, all these different houses, and I like this one, and I don't like that one, and it's close to the park, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is all judgment. This is all, I'm just judging and ranking and comparing, and I, in that moment, realized this is exhausting. We find freedom in the suspension of judgment. And when we can begin to look at something like the bread here, and we can see within it the universe, that this is learning to see the way that Jesus sees. The word Christ, it wasn't his last name, it's a title, it means anointed, and it's to see the world as already blessed, to see our lives as already blessed, to see the anointing of God. Jesus said, I'm the bread of life. And if you come to me, you'll never be hungry. And if you trust in me, you'll never be thirsty. And if you walk with me, we'll learn a spirituality of connection where we begin to see that there are no separate things, that there's no separate self, there's no separate God, that our life as it is right now, not as we hope it will be someday, as it is right now, is one life. It's a cell of the same. And if we think of God as up here somewhere or out there, then all we're left with is ideas about God and hopes and prayers and how to become reconnected. Wonder where God was in this event or that one. Wonder why God seems to bless this one and not that one. We are left with ideas that just perpetuate the sense of separateness that is an illusion. It is the core wound of humanity. is to feel separate or disconnected from, and we work so hard to heal it, but we can't heal it because it isn't real. Heal it. Just like we can't find God by any way that we would find something else that's out there. God is too close to be found. Meister Eckhart said, God is at home, it's just that we have gone out for a walk. So the invitation in this moment, and really all moments, this is what repentance is. It's just to recognize, well, it's time to come home. To be home. And to look up these windows of the soul that we have here. Not looking for God, but looking with God. Because what we're searching for is where we're looking from. So we'll close there. We'll just going to open the table up behind us, the Eucharist. Everybody and anybody is welcome to take and eat. And we'll wrap it officially there. Please come and enjoy, hang out for as long as you'd like, leave whenever you're ready. Thank you for being here. I hope to see y'all soon.